Thank you, Con. Yes, as Con mentioned, my name is Bernie, developer at Bombora Technologies. So basically I'm here because a couple of months ago Con asked if anyone was using Java 8 and I put up my hand and said yeah. And he said, have there been any issues? I said, yeah, there have been a few. So this is just a quick talk about some of the things we came across switching to Java 8. So a little bit of background. We're working on a government project. It's been going for over a year. It's due for release in August. And our development manager decided when Java 8 was released, since we're hosting and we'll be doing ongoing maintenance on this project, he wanted to switch to Java 8 before we release, because...
What an awesome guy.
Yeah. He believed that if we didn't do it before we release, we would never get a chance to do like the massive testing that we'll do before we release. So he wouldn't sort of condone switching afterwards. So given that mandate, we set about and started work. And first thing I came across, get the focus right. There we go. Tomcat. Must be greater than or equal to version 7030. Now, if you know Tomcat, you know the current version is 7054. I'm sure you're all using that in production. I'm only mentioning this because I happen to be using a packaged version of Tomcat in my dev environment, and it was quite an old one, 7026. So just make sure you've got an up-to-date Tomcat. So that one's easy. These are in sort of increasing order of pain, by the way. Jacoco must be greater than version 070. So again, there's a dependency from Jacoco to ASM, and these guys, it took a little while to get their plugin updated because they were waiting for a new version of ASM to enable them to support Java 8. But that's all released now. That's ready to go. I think it was released.
Sorry, mate. What does Jacoco do?
It's code coverage for your Java code. Yeah. Yeah.
Will we be able to get a copy of some of these slides after, or should I take notes?
I can make these available. That's right.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yep. So yeah. Anyway, so when we first did it, the plugin wasn't available. We were trying to figure out how to work around it. Anyway, it's released now, so that's not an issue anymore. Spring Framework.
Yes.
Must be version 4. So this is a quote from the Spring 4 release notes, and you'll see Spring 3.2 based applications need to be compiled with a maximum of Java 7 as the target, even if they happen to be deployed onto a Java 8 runtime. So you can deploy to Java 8, you can run it with Java 8, the Java 8 JVM, but you can't compile with Java 8 and run a Spring 3.2 based project. So fortunately we were able to upgrade to Spring 4 without any issues. So that was also a relatively minor inconvenience. And then came the big one. So we're using a little bit of Scala in our project, and we use Gradle as our build tool. We basically the Gradle was crapping out if we're using Scala. It wasn't anything we were doing that was out of the ordinary. If you just had apply plugin Scala in your Gradle build.gradle file and you tried to run that with Java 8, it would fail. So this was caused us a fair bit of pain. Pressure from our dev manager saying, you need to get this thing done. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to do it. All sorts of conversations going on. Do we ditch Scala? Do we ditch Gradle? Do we forget about Java 8? Anyway, eventually we finally had a breakthrough. And in a win for open source, we were able to create a patched version of Gradle, which fixed the incompatibility with Java 8. And so we've been using that. There was an issue raised on the Gradle forum, and there was a comment from one of the Gradle maintainers saying, we should fix this in Gradle 2. And then we're like, well, when's Gradle 2 going to be released? Is it going to be released in time to switch to it? And so on and so forth. So fortunately, it's an open source project and we were able to do that. And I will mention, some of you may be aware, maybe not all of you, Gradle 2.0 was released this morning. So
it's interesting to do.
Yeah. So I haven't had a chance to test this, but I do know that Peter has one of the Gradle contributors, one of the main developers, has made a fix, applied much the same patch on the Gradle source. So you should be good. But if you happen to be still running Gradle 1.10 and 1.12, you can grab the patched version from there and use that. And on the topic of Scala, so I also found, so once we'd fixed that issue, another one came up, and I came across this is from the Scala source code, so particularly the Ant compilation plugin. So this is the list of targets that it supports: 1.5, 1.6, 1.7. Now, it's the Ant plugin. Maybe you think that doesn't matter, but it does, because the Gradle plugin actually uses the Scala Ant plugin by default. So we're stuck again. But fortunately, if you've done Gradle and Scala before, you may know there's a few different options of compiler to use, and it doesn't seem like there's actually an incompatibility with Java 8 and Scala. It's just that they have this arbitrary kind of restriction in there, and if your source, if your language level doesn't match what's in that list, it complains. So
Can you just edit this?
And create a patched version of Scala. Yeah, there is an easy solution we found. So there's one of the other options with Gradle is the Scala plugin is to use Zinc, which is a incremental compiler. It works out of the box with Gradle. It's documented in the Gradle manual if you want to use that. And so once we'd sorted that out, we were away. So the status now is we're now using Java 8. We are not actually using any Java 8 features. Our dev manager has said that up until we release the project, if our IT department or someone decides that Java 8 has a security issue or something, we need to be able to roll back to Java 7 immediately. So I can't give you any feedback on actually using any Java 8 features, but maybe in a few months after we released. And
have you noticed any difference in performance or between the two?
No. So we've run performance tests. We were running performance tests before we switched on Java 7 and also afterwards, and haven't noticed any significant change.
How big was your project, and how many lines of code, or what does it do?
So like I was saying, it's been going for over a year. I have no idea how many lines of code. So do you guys want to make a guess?
I remember what, but you can count the number of developers.
Yeah, so we've had about 12 developers for about what would be 8 months, and prior to that there's a smaller team of about 4 to 6, if that helps.
So what does the application do, just roughly? Is it for what market does it do?
It's a web application, and it maintains the registry of clean energy certificates, or renewable energy certificates for the clean energy regulator.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a rebuild of that website.
I hear from More Technologies is an avid proponent of TD and they've got tests for everything. Did you find that any tests worked when we moved to Java 8? Sorry, when you moved to Java 8?
Yeah. I wasn't going to mention that, but anyways, we moved to Java 8, and it seems like they everything, mostly things were good. There were a couple of issues with test breaking because it seemed, they changed the collections API, or the collections implementation, I should say, not so much the API. They changed the implementation. And we actually discovered that people had written some tests which depended on the order of items in a set, which was very bad. And so, anyway, other than that, everything was good.
You deserve a clap for being a leader in going to Java 8.